My vision had came to. It withered a little bit, but other than that, I was alright. I pulled myself up, and I began looking around. My surroundings were different, to say the least. But I was used to different surroundings. I had fought many different battles. I'd fought battles that were on land, in the sky, in water, even in space. This time it was different. My arsenal it was limited. I decided to do a small check. My hub had appeared, or my HUD, my heads-up display. I had 100% health, which was pretty good. I had 100 armor. It's a good thing I knew Gary was looking out for me. However, here's the thing. Gary had told me before I descended that the workshop would not be available to me. I'd have to resort to the basics. I had no problem with that. I was a master with the basics. But I'd have to earn my abilities. I looked and see what I had. I'd taken a simple inventory check. Crowbar, gravity gun, physics gun, and tool gun. I decided to check some of my abilities that I had on me. I could bigify and smallify objects with my mind. I could even levitate, and I could set some on fire, which was good. However, I could not spawn in entities. I could spawn in a limited amount. I could spawn in items, if I chose so, but I could not spawn in weapons. I couldn't spawn in vehicles. I couldn't fly. I couldn't no-clip. Damn. Oh yeah, and I have a camera as well. Don't know what good that'll do me. I couldn't access different weapons. However, it did seem that I forgot to see one particular item. I did have a handgun. It wasn't a revolver, so it wasn't that powerful, but it was a gun, nevertheless. However, the reason my capabilities were limited is I couldn't do the assortment of things I needed. I'd have to earn them. I breathed in and out. I focused my mind, and eventually my menu popped up. I focused on a certain item, thought of what I wanted it to be. Sure enough, it formed right in front of me in an instant. It materialized. I went over and picked it up. It was a backpack. I was going to need it. As I looked around my surroundings, I noticed it was trees for trees for trees for miles. Best thing to do was get walking. I put one foot in front of the other, moving. By this rate, I'd make it somewhere. Well, I'd have to get high up. The best way to do that was to find a good vantage point. Up ahead, I noticed that there was a particularly tall hill. If I reached it, I could climb up there, and I'd get a good vantage point, see where I'm heading. Before I could do anything, I'd have to reach that hill. That was my main goal. As I walked over, I remembered. I remembered everything from back then, and the way it is now. I'd have to adapt, not just on one level, but an entirety of it. My whole world has changed now. Hell, I don't even know if I can respawn. Gary didn't tell me that. I walked over and began climbing the hill, scaling it. The blue skies and the sun shined upon me as I left the wake of the forest in its eeriness. As I had reached the very top of the hill, I began looking out on the vast landscape before me. I didn't see anything. However, I did see something out in the distance. I saw some bugs. Weird bug creatures. I took a breath and told myself not to fight. It wasn't the best option. I remember my first time spawning in a head crab. I thought it was a cute little thing, until it tried to couple with my face. I had to put the thing down. I think I went a little overkill with a shotgun, but whatever. I looked down there at them. These bugs, they were shaped like ponies, as far as I was concerned. I took a deep breath in and out as I focused in on one of them. Then, I unfocused out. When you focus in on something, we call it the cursor. Apparently these things are called changelings. That's as far as I know of them. I looked up and it was already getting dark. He didn't spawn me in the morning. He spawned me, hell, further into the day. As I went and sat down, I decided it was best if I got myself better equipped. I looked around, noticing that there was a few trees that were falling over and dying. I pulled out my physics gun. It emitted a blue aura. As I walked over, I hovered it up, pointing it at the tree. As I pressed the trigger, a blue beam emitted from it. As it hit against the tree, it made no sound, didn't force it, until I moved my physics gun up, causing the tree to lift up. Anything that was holding it was immediately ripped away. Nothing held it back. As I pulled it towards me, I set it down and began making a wall around the hill. I grabbed my crowbar and began smashing one of the trees in front of me. Once I had gotten enough bark, I'd set it up in a certain angle to make a small campfire as I set rocks around it. I focused in on it, my cursor hovering over it, and eventually one of the pieces of wood caught fire. And then it spread to another one, and another one, and another one. All the sticks in the center had caught fire, making a fire pit. I then hovered over various bits of brush and leaves, creating a cover, making a hut. I looked proud at my work. I maneuvered and spawned many different materials. I materialized a shelf, a cabinet, and I had also materialized a workbench as such. I began working. Eventually, I had drawn the attention of the changelings. As I noticed, I heard a buzzing sound. I turned and looked. They were flying towards me. They had a look on their face. I could tell when something was an enemy. It reminded me of a combine soldier. I remember when I first spawned one in. Shot me a couple times. Got me in the bicep and the chest at least 3 times. The thing about me is, even if they hit me in my throat with something sharp, it wouldn't affect me as a normal entity, as I would simply take it as an amount of damage, and I wouldn't bleed out. However, that would be normally. In this occurrence, any amount of pain that I get, I'll suffer. However, I'd been around long enough. Gary had taught many of the G-Modders from the realm that every entity, whether they have no magical ability or not, that they all could have a surge, magical or physical. Some have a surge where they don't care if they die and they'll charge straight into battle. Some will have a magical surge, but they'll show the ultimate ability of their ability. Me, I'll have a surge, and it'll cause all my powers to come into one. This is dangerous. However, it's just in case I get to a level of emotion or fear where I am going to die. They'd flown off. Obviously, they were scouts. No doubt in my mind. They were going to report this, and they were going to come back with more. I could tell where they were going. It would take them a few days. And a few days to get back. But it'd only take me 1 day to leave. It'd remind me of those... Dang. Those scanners. Yeah, the scanners. There were 2 types. One's for the CPs, and one's for the soldiers. But they both alerted but the regular scanner could alert the soldiers too. That's what they were. They were practically drones. And they were going to go alert of a presence of something new. I shrugged. I couldn't care less. I decided to see if I can spawn anything in. Anything at all. I couldn't. I couldn't spawn any guns, and I couldn't spawn any life. If I got hurt, I couldn't spawn in a medic, but I could spawn in a med kit. Only there was a limit. There's a limit to what I could spawn. I'd have to earn them. However the hell I'd earn them was beyond me. But for now, I rested my head and fell asleep after I had materialized a mattress and laid on it. The roof above me wasn't quite right. I was too lazy to pull out my physics gun, so I focused in on it and used my cursor. I then moved it with my mind, sitting in the place above me. Once it was good, I pulled out my physics gun, moved it onto it, and welded it. Well, I froze it in place, didn't necessarily weld it. It would stay stuck there until me or a stronger force moved it. The next day I heard birds chirping, which awoke me. I sat there and stared. I stared at the birds, chirping and flying around. I shrugged. I looked at my gun and began cleaning it. As I had a decent breakfast. There were some apples in the tree next to me. I pulled them out with my fizz gun. And I boiled some water and began drinking it. And I realized how stupid I was. I could probably spawn in water. As I sat there, I thought over what had happened over the last couple of hours and the last day. This wasn't going to be too hard. I either destroyed or dematerialized the items I had spawned in. With my crowbar, my physics gun, my gravity gun, my tool gun, and my handgun, I'd moved. Jumping down, I went over and vaulted over one of the pre-made tree barricades I'd set. And then I used my legs to slide. I slid down the hill. As I had gotten down, I noticed there was a river. Surely this would lead me somewhere, better than walking. I put my hand to the left side of my temple, and I manipulated. And eventually, I materialized 6 blue barrels. I had moved them together with my physics gun, pulled out my tool gun, and put it on weld. I went over and welded the barrels together. I felt it wasn't enough. So I had gotten a few more. Gotten some pallets. Eventually I made a raft. I had to stabilize it with a few other props, and there we go. I had a basic boat, or a basic raft. I'd made it one basic entity, and then I manipulated it with the physics gun to go into the water. I wouldn't have to push it. Once it got to the water, I simply walked over. And I had jumped onto the physics-made raft. I unfroze it, and it began moving downstream gently. After a couple of hours, I sat there. I was bored out of my mind. I had sat there and played with my gun for a little bit. Until I heard what sounded to be yelling. This is my second day here, and already there's something going on. Well, at least I'm not bored anymore. I'm going to go ahead and see what's going on. See if I can get some of my abilities back. I was going to say get my hands dirty, but that's probably not the best approach.